But thank you for your testimony, and I recognize Senator from Nevada.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today and speaking your mind. It's about the First Amendment. Appreciate that. Because the freedom to express yourself and speak your mind is the cornerstone of America. It's one of the main ways we distinguish ourselves from other nations. In the United States, you are free to criticize whomever you want, including government leaders, without government censorship. And so it is wholly appropriate and indeed necessary for this committee to hold oversight hearings that focus on protecting this critical right from being eroded by anyone. But that is not the focus of today's hearing. Rather than providing us with a forum that will evaluate truly harmful government censorship, this has become increasingly commonplace under the Trump administration. We're undertaking an effort to settle old political scores against an administration that is no longer in power. There are issues that we have to deal with, and we do want to support, and we must support free speech. But this hearing is not the place. 2 weeks ago, I sent a letter to Chairman Cruz calling for the FCC chairman to testify before this committee after he threatened to revoke broadcast licenses over Jimmy Kimmel's comments criticizing President Trump. I was particularly concerned, as I know the chair was from his statements calling the threat mafia-like. Chairman Cruz called the threats mafia-like. With this clear attempt to suppress speech, comedian. However, I'm disappointed that that's not what's the focus of today's hearing. Chairman Carr's later backtracking, claiming there's some sort of local community exception to the First Amendment. There's no exceptions. You have free speech or you don't. We know those limits. There's precedent for that. His comments, Chairman Carr's, were reprehensible, and his demands of full accountability. And we demand full accountability. Indeed, his weak excuses have been repeatedly contradicted by the president's own statements. President Trump has said outright that the reason the FCC should revoke broadcast licenses is because of negative coverage of his administration. I want there to be journalism that looks at things. This is the clearest possible violation of the First Amendment. The President of the United States directing an agency to revoke a license of networks that run a critical story of him? There never would have been press or print or TV or radio. You could go back 250 years if all presidents did this. This is government censorship by our president, plain and simple. It's what they do in Russia. It's what they do in North Korea. It's what they do in China. It is not what we do in a democracy that has a First Amendment. Those attacks on free speech, they harm not only our democracy, but our economy. Last month, it was Brendan Carr's interference in the private business decisions of large media companies, but tomorrow could be tech, energy, tourism, any other industry could be impacted. In Las Vegas, we're seeing fewer international tourists because people are afraid to come to the U.S. under this administration. People planning to travel to the U.S. see this administration detaining people for posting something online that's critical of the president in another country where they live. And they cancel their trips to America out of fear of U.S. government retaliation. The consequences for our economy are substantial. So, Mr. Kimmelman, can you discuss the direct impacts of infringement on speech rights? And can you tell us what you see as the biggest threat to the First Amendment writ large, please?
Well, the threats, coercion, chill speech. Either they suppress directly or create an environment in which everyone is afraid to speak his or her mind, to engage in debate, to have the kind of open discussion that our democracy requires. So it's extremely dangerous. Obviously, as you point out, when the government does it directly, it is horrible. It is a First Amendment violation. It needs to be stopped. But it also can happen when tech platforms become too powerful, when they don't face competition, when they play a gatekeeper role. This could be the same if there's too much roll-up of media and it's the most popular media. Senator Moreno made a good point. There's so much more out there than before, but it's not just availability, it's what do people rely upon? What is most popular? What do they need to get news and information? And so anywhere there's a chokehold, I think there's an appropriate question of, is it too much concentration? Is it too much power? Does it work for our democracy? And that's where Congress has a role to set guardrails.
Thank you. I see my time is up. Appreciate this hearing and wish that we would be having Chairman Carr here to discuss some of free speech on the open platforms. I look forward to Chairman Cruz working with us to get get that on the docket. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I'm told that we will do that. We need to open the government up first, right? That's the first priority. I will also note that I asked the chairwoman to have Lena Khan come before this committee